In the dense forest, Drassa wakes up to the sound of an approaching plane. She quickly grabs her sniper rifle, and the moment a man steps out of the aircraft, he's taken down by a fatal shot to the head. At the same time, former Marine Levi jolts awake from a disturbing nightmare and decides to go to the beach to clear his mind. At dawn, he receives a message summoning him to report to the Marine Corps base. Upon arriving at the base, Levi meets Agent Bartholomew, who already knows his flawless record as an elite sniper. No family, no friends. And that's exactly why he's there, to offer him a special mission. In Lithuania, Drassa meets her father at the cemetery, on the exact day she remembers the anniversary of her mother's death. Recently, Drassa's father received the devastating news that his cancer is untreatable. With death drawing near, he confesses that if he's still alive by February 14th, he'll choose to end his life, hoping to reunite with his wife on Valentine's Day. In September, Levi wakes up from anesthesia-induced sleep aboard a plane mid-flight. He tries to get information from a female soldier about their destination, but she's forbidden to speak. She confiscates his personal belongings and informs him that they're entering a no-fly zone. Levi will have to jump and complete the rest of the journey on foot. He grabs the backpack assigned to him, jumps from the aircraft, and waits for the right moment to deploy his parachute. The landing is smooth, but the road ahead is long, filled with climbs, trails, and nights spent camping. After a grueling trek, Levi reaches the edge of a massive canyon. There, he meets soldier JD. Together, they set out toward the West Tower, a fully self-sufficient fortress. On the other side of the canyon rises the East Tower, but any attempt to contact its guardian is strictly forbidden. The region is protected by landmines and tactical barriers to the north and south, with no accessible routes in or out. As he guides Levi through the area, JD explains the mission. Every day, Levi must patrol the western edge and ensure the resupply of the automated turrets, installed every 600 meters. Levi will also be responsible for inspecting the containment vents, the suspended mines, and the cloakers, devices that emit false signals to satellites, rendering the canyon invisible to the outside world. The radio performs check-ins every 30 days, but there's no way to contact the outside world. In case of emergency, a panic button activates the stray dog protocol. JD doesn't know what happens when it's triggered, but he warns Levi to run immediately, if it ever is. He reveals that the site dates back to the Cold War, when military teams from various nations formed a pact to keep its existence secret, so secret that even heads of state are unaware of its location. Levi's mission is clear: prevent anything inside the canyon from getting out. It may sound insane, and JD thought the same, until he witnessed what the guards call hollow men, whose screams now echo through the cliffs. JD explains that in the late 1940s, 3 cavalry battalions were sent to clear the canyon, but none ever returned. Since then, the Army's only priority has been to contain the area. After that, JD leaves the tower and heads to the extraction point. A helicopter appears and lifts him up with a rope. On board, a soldier asks for his ID. Once JD gives the password, the soldier shoots him in the head without hesitation and tosses his body into the mountains. A month later, Levi has already grown used to his monotonous routine. He patrols the area, maintains the security systems, and checks in daily via radio. On the other end, the voice simply asks if everything is fine, then cuts off before Levi can ask anything. While tending to the garden, Levi notices movement in the opposite tower. He rushes to the binoculars and sees Drassa chopping wood. She spots him, but simply ignores his presence. On a stormy night, Levi abruptly wakes from a nightmare, shaken, and shatters a glass. Thinking he's under attack, he grabs a weapon. Only when he feels a sharp pain in his foot does he realize he stepped on the broken shards. It was just an accident. Slowly, he calms down. While cleaning the wound, Levi notices that Drassa is still awake, watching him. But as soon as she realizes she's been seen, she quickly retreats to sleep. Another month passes, and Drassa finds herself forced to celebrate her birthday alone. Bored, she fires a shot to get Levi's attention and holds up a sign asking for his name. Levi replies in writing, saying they shouldn't be communicating, but Drassa brushes it off and writes her name anyway, claiming she can do whatever she wants on her birthday. Amused, Levi shares his name too and raises a glass for a toast from afar. Moments later, Drasa blasts loud music and starts dancing, daring Levi to do the same. He declines, joking that he's a terrible dancer but a great marksman. In response, Drasa shoots directly at his water bottle. Levi quickly grabs his weapon and shoots at Drasa's bottle. Excited, she places another bottle on her head, ready to continue the challenge. But she suddenly freezes when she spots something moving deep within the canyon. Looking down, Levi sees strange creatures, humanoid figures made of wood, climbing the canyon wall toward them. Without hesitation, he shoots one of them and it falls, triggering a mine. The explosion takes out most of the attackers. A few remain climbing, and Levi keeps firing. Drasa joins in with her machine gun, and together they eliminate all the creatures within minutes. Just when they think the threat has been neutralized, a creature reaches Drasa's balcony. She fires several times before throwing it off. Soon after, more monsters climb her wall, forcing both of them to unite in defense. One of the enemies falls onto a mine, causing an explosion. A metal shard is launched by the blast and hits Drasa. Now, the monsters are climbing both walls. At once, Levi and Drasa use their machine guns to take them down and activate more mines as reinforcement. With this renewed offensive, they manage to eliminate all invaders until the area is clear once more. The next morning, Drasa tends to her wounds and, with a smile, tells Levi it was the best birthday she's ever had. Levi heads down to repair the damage and replace the mines. Suddenly, a drone emerges from the canyon and flies away, disappearing into the horizon. In December, Levi decorates a tree in the forest with lights, creating a makeshift Christmas tree. He also places a sign directed at Drasa. From that moment on, they begin sharing all sorts of activities, building snowmen with each other's names, playing chess, and even banging on makeshift drums using pots and pans. On February 14th, Levi sees Drasa crying in front of a photo of her family. Levi asks why she didn't head out for patrol earlier, and Drasa replies that she's having a rough day and that she wishes he could be by her side. Using tools from the arsenal, Levi crafts an improvised device and launches a rocket across the canyon. The rocket latches onto a tree and sparks a small fire, which Drasa rushes to extinguish. Only then does she notice a rope tied to it. Drasa secures the rope tightly to the tree before running back to her tower, where she finds Levi, who invites her to dinner. He starts descending the rope to cross the canyon, but ends up getting stuck halfway. Luckily, he's wearing gloves, and with effort, he manages to pull himself across until he reaches Drasa's tower. When he arrives, he hands her a bouquet of flowers. Drasa jokes that he smells awful after all that effort, and Levi, laughing, agrees to take a shower. While Levi washes up, Drasa grabs his uniform and lays out elegant clothes that once belonged to a former occupant. A quiet but meaningful gesture. During dinner, they talk about their lives as mercenaries and the toll that lifestyle has taken on their minds. The conversation flows into a dance, and with their closeness, emotions drive them to cross the line of that connection. The next morning, Levi begins sliding along the rope back to his tower. At that moment, the Hollow Men appear in front of him, triggering a mine and causing an explosion that snaps the rope. He drops instantly, but manages to deploy his parachute just in time. Drasa rushes to the arsenal, grabs several weapons and a parachute, and jumps after him. After a long fall, she lands straight into a river. Her parachute gets caught on a rock, forcing her to cut it loose. The current throws her against a boulder. On impact, she drops the auto-ascender. Still, being pulled by the current, she grabs onto tree roots and saves herself. Meanwhile, Levi remains unconscious, hanging from a tree. Suddenly, a branch moves, or rather, it's a creature. As the monster approaches, Levi wakes up and in a swift motion starts shooting while trying to free himself from the ropes. He falls into a substance that feels like mud, but quickly realizes it's moving. It's actually the mouth of another creature. The viscous slime traps him as the mouth slowly begins to close. Fortunately, Drasa arrives just in time and opens fire on the creature, rescuing Levi at the last second. She uses a knife to cut through the sticky goo on his body, and together they move toward the wall to search for the rope. A piercing scream echoes, and two hollow men appear riding wooden horses. They attack with swords. One leaps onto Wu, Drasa, but she plunges a knife into his neck and finishes him off with gunfire. The other disarms Levi, who quickly draws his pistol and takes down the rider with precise shots. Drasa checks her bag and realizes the auto-ascender was carried away by the river's current. With the canyon walls too steep to climb, they're left with no choice. They're trapped. She suggests following the river, believing it must eventually lead somewhere. Levi examines the creature he killed and notices it's wearing a very old military uniform. This confirms his suspicion. The Hollow Men are, in fact, the long-lost cavalry battalions from history. The pair continues through the forest, finding hundreds of skeletons along the way. Eventually, they reach an abandoned city where buildings are overrun with mutant plants, and the ground shows clear signs of destruction. Distant screams signal that more monsters are approaching, and the pair rushes to hide inside a church. Inside, they find skeletons scattered across the pews, remnants of former residents. Levi smells cyanide and quickly realizes those people chose death to escape the nightmare. Suddenly, a sound on the roof. Drasa looks up and sees a giant spider leaping. She knocks it away, but falls to the ground where another one waits. Drasa stabs the creature, while Levi, surrounded by two, takes them out with quick shots. Dozens of spiders surround them, forcing non-stop gunfire. They sprint toward the door, but Hollow Men burst into the church, forcing them to split. Their focus between creatures and riders. Drasa slams one creature's head before throwing it aside, watching as other spiders devour it. She hurls a grenade at the back wall, blasting open an escape path. They dash through the forest, toward a wall, where they find an old rusted door. Inside, they discover a military facility swallowed by vegetation. Exploring further, they realize it's an old military lab filled with skeletons and a derelict generator that draws Drasa's attention. She brings it back to life. Levi finds a tape and places it in a projector. The flickering image shows a scientist explaining that, in 1946, the community was part of an ultra-secret coalition. During World War II, the team had been developing biochemical missile agents. 6 days before the recording, an earthquake caused a chemical leak that spiraled out of control. The scientists struggled to contain the substance, but it fused with the DNA of local flora and fauna, triggering unpredictable mutations. Brief exposure caused no immediate harm, but over time, the researchers began undergoing changes, like the woman in the video, now with branches growing from her abdomen. Luckily, the base was isolated within the gorge, preventing the toxin from spreading. Exploring another room, Levi and Drasa discover a computer from the early 2000s, confirming that the experiments continued even after the initial disaster. When Levi powers on the machine, he finds out that the facility belongs to Darklake, a H-White private paramilitaries corporation. The drone they spotted earlier had been collecting samples for Darklake's experiments, whose ultimate goal is the development of super soldiers. Surveillance towers and hired mercenaries ensure that the secret stays buried. In the computer's files, Levi uncovers information about the Stray Dog Protocol, an extreme contingency that involves detonating a nuclear bomb to wipe out the area in case of a breach. As they leave the facility, Levi tells Drasa that taking this mission was worth it because it's what led him to her. They unlock the door and toss a smoke grenade before stepping out, but in the next moment, a Hollow Man's whip wraps around Drasa's ankle, yanking her violently away. Dragged through the forest, Drasa tries to cut the whip with her knife, but loses control after crashing into a tree. Desperately, she attempts to shoot, but gets wounded as she slams into rocks and branches, until a log hits her and knocks her unconscious. Following the knight's trail, Levi arrives at the facility where the nuclear bomb is stored. There, he sees Drasa suspended as the Hollow Man tortures her, cruelly twisting the branch lodged in her stomach before ripping it out without mercy. With a violent kick, Drasa breaks free, shoves the Hollow Man back, and grabs a piece of metal to defend herself. He quickly overpowers her, and the serpent on his chest strikes. But Drasa resists, decapitates the creature, and hurls the metal at her enemy. The strike barely wounds him, only fueling his rage. He charges with his sword, forcing her to use bones as a makeshift shield. Thinking fast, Drasa crafts a torch and sets her attacker on fire. Levi arrives and ends the fight with precise gunfire. After a brief embrace, Levi examines the fallen enemy. His eyes lock onto the name stitched into the uniform. The Hollow Man was the first guard of his tower. Wielding the creature's sword, Levi and Drasa push forward to the epicenter of the leak, where they find mutants trapped in a viscous substance born from the Toik contamination. Crossing a fragile bridge, they stare uneasily at the submerged faces in the slime. Still breathing, Drasa steps on a root, unintentionally pulling the sticky matter. Instantly, the bodies begin to break free, reaching out to grab her. Levi slashes the roots to release her, but the motion awakens larger creatures, which roar with fury. He clears a path with sharp, clean strikes, but a tendril of goo wraps around his ankle and drags him down. Without hesitation, Drasa hurls a grenade. The blast ignites the creatures and burns through the viscous mass as they sprint toward the stairs. Exploring a deserted urban zone, they come across rusted military jeeps. After working on an engine, they manage to get it running and drive for hours, returning to the point where the rope had snapped. Levi moves quickly, tying the rope to the jeep, while Drasa keeps the Hollow Men at bay with precise gunfire. When her bullets run out, they switch places. With everything set, the vehicle begins to ascend. The climb starts smoothly, but they soon spot the Hollow Men scaling the rope behind them. Levi kicks one off and slashes others with the sword, while Drasa finds a hatchet and joins the fight, taking them down with brutal blows. In the heat of the battle, Levi shoves one creature into the wheel, shredding it on impact. Suddenly, a Hollow Man leaps onto him. Levi clings to the jeep, then, with effort, pierces the gas tank before climbing back up. He lights a flare and throws it down at the enemies below. The flame hits the propane, triggering an explosion that incinerates the nearby Hollow Men. The blast destroys the jeep, which crashes into the wall and traps Levi's leg. Drasa rushes to help him, and together they make a quick decision. They cut the rope, sending the jeep plummeting down and crushing the remaining Hollow Men. With effort, the pair climbs the final stretch and returns to Drasa's tower. As they tend to their wounds, they agree to spend 5 days apart in quarantine to ensure they haven't been infected. Knowing they can't stay there forever, they plan to destroy the canyon and escape together. Before parting ways, they share a kiss, and Levi, looking into Drasa's eyes, confesses his love. Using a grappling gun, he then returns to his own tower. The next morning, during a routine radio check, Levi is caught off guard by Bartholomew's voice. She's discovered. The lab's computer was activated and demands an explanation. Denying any involvement with the canyon, Levi tries to throw her off, but Bartholomew deduces the activity came from the other tower. Without hesitation, she orders him to eliminate the person there. Levi pretends to accept the order, but the transmission reveals the computer had a camera. Bartholomew already knows they were both there. She calls in a commander and orders a team to the canyon. The following morning, as soldiers work to install mines, Drasa writes to Levi, "I love you too." Before they can react, a helicopter appears on the horizon. Without hesitation, they run into the forest. When the soldiers arrive at the now empty towers, they deploy drones to track the fugitives, launching a relentless chase. The drones open fire, forcing Levi and Drasa to fight back. After a fierce battle, they manage to shoot down one drone after another. From a strategic high ground, they take sniper positions and begin firing at the cloakers. The pre-planted mines activate, setting off a chain reaction that devastates the entire area and annihilates all cloakers. With the canyon exposed, the stray dog protocol is triggered. Bartholomew and her team rush to the helicopter, while Levi and Drasa scramble to escape as fast as they can. The nuclear bomb detonates. The colossal explosion brings down the helicopter, killing everyone on board. Levi is thrown by the shockwave, tumbling off a cliff and swept away by a distant river. Drassa survives the destruction and takes shelter in a cave, waiting anxiously for Levi. After a month, without any word, she makes the heartbreaking decision to move on alone. Months later, in a cafe in France, Draza works as a waitress. Suddenly, she spots Levi sitting at a table. He explains he spent the time recovering before tracking her down. Their reunion is sealed with a passionate kiss.